Hello, my name is Sean Blaney. I am 34 years old. I live in southeast Missouri. I have 3 children that I'm aware of. I would like to tell you about the time that I died and my trip to heaven. About 14 years ago, I fell into a very deep depression. By the way, before we start, my channel is non-monetary. I don't want any money for this. I cannot receive any money for this information. That was one of the not rules. That's not the right word. Yeah, I guess that's as good a word as any. So, this message is out of peace, love, and light. There are many, many negative things going on in this world right now, and I have been informed that it's time. It's time for me to get this message out there. I was very depressed. I had separated from my first wife. I went down to Florida, spent time with relatives, and stayed depressed, tried to drink away my sorrows. That didn't seem to work and didn't seem to help. Eventually, I decided to go back to Ashtabula, Ohio to spend time with my father, my grandmother, and other friends and family members. I was homesick. So my grandmother let me stay in her basement, until I got back on my feet. But I stayed in such a depression that, after a few months of being there, one day I couldn't take it anymore. I walked out and I looked up to the stars and I said, God, I've always known you were real. I know you're real. And I need answers. I don't want to die. I don't want to be sent to hell. I plan on taking my life, and I'm asking you to allow me to, give me the answers that I'm looking for. Please, I beg of you. Thank you. That might not be the exact words I used, but I asked for forgiveness for the action. And then I proceeded to, before we go any further, this is very graphic. So I'm warning you now that there are graphic parts to this story. And it's not a story, this is information. I don't want to say that and have it being misconstrued. It's not a story at all. It's mine. I went into my grandfather and grandmother's work shed, and I brandished a razor blade. I went back in the house, and I got one of my grandmother's butcher knives, and I took the butcher knife and it's kind of like one of them little fillet of fish knives, and I barely slit one of my wrists with the fillet knife, and I knew that wasn't going to get the job done. I didn't want to be superficial about it. I knew that whatever I did, I had to do thorough enough to make sure that I died. I wasn't looking for attention. I was looking for answers from God. Before I go any further, suicide is a sin, and we will go into that a little deeper. Please do not, I will not be held responsible for anybody that decides to take their own life. I asked for forgiveness. God told me that I was a rare exception. We'll get into that in a little bit. So I took the razor knife, and I was sitting on the edge of the edge of my bed down in the basement. I had my feet over the edge of the bed, and I was sitting there, and I took the knife or the razor blade and sliced my left arm about 3 or 4 times, and I sliced my right arm. That started to bleed, and I started to get a little woozy. Didn't think that was going to do it, so I took the razor blade and sliced my left arm about 6 or 7 times. It might have been a few more. It might have been, 5. I don't really remember. I was woozy at that point. But as far as I know, it was probably about 6 or 7 times. I mean, it was... So it might have been 5 times. So, irrelevant, not important. So, the first thing that happened as the blood started to drain from me was I felt woozy, everything started to go black, and I fell back on the bed, and I started to get scared. It's like, oh no, what if I'm wrong? What if God sends me to hell? What if I'm wrong, what if I've been wrong my whole life? What if there is no God, right? Even though I knew better than that, that was probably very, more because I was scared than anything. So I tried to get up off the bed, and I couldn't, and I fell back down. And I tried to get up off the bed, and I couldn't, and I fell back down again. And after trying this about 3 times, on the 3rd time, I fell backward on the bed, arms out. Blood just gushed everywhere. And when you die, you do shed all your everything. I don't want to be gross, but that's a part of the facts. When you die, your body will release everything. Blood, sweat, tears, everything. So, I laid there and everything got real dark. Everything started getting cold and I was so scared. And then all of a sudden, a light appeared over me. It was a pinprick at first. And then it was all around me. Just white light. Brighter than anything I've ever seen. And I realized at that moment when that light was surrounding me that I wasn't even in my body anymore. That I was already tunneling to another place. And I realized this. Like, I couldn't, there was no physical. I could tell that I was spirit. And so I felt, when that light surrounded me, I felt love, I felt warmth, I felt like everything was going to be okay. And I, in that moment, found myself at the gates of heaven. And heaven was all bright, all white light, and God appeared in front of me. And I'll say that God said, but this is more like telepathic. I didn't hear, Sean, I am God, but my spirit, I had this conversation between me and God, and it was almost in like an instantaneous like soul knowledge, and think of it like, a telepathic connection. And the first thing that God told me, again, soul to soul, or God to soul, sorry, God. The first thing that God told me, and I might say He, or I'll just use God, but God is pure energy, love, and light. He isn't He isn't she, He is almighty, just energy being. So you could think about if this place was white light, then it was so bright that if with human eyes, it probably would have burnt your eyes right out of your skull. So the first thing that God told me was that committing suicide was a sin, and that I was a rare exception, that God needed to give me the answers that I was seeking, because He had big plans for me. He has big plans for all of us. This isn't all about me. This is about all of us. God loves all of us. It hurts when that negative connotation, toward God, that hurts. On some level, on some par. He didn't tell me that. I just, on my soul, I feel like, to say GD or to disrespect, that is a big no-no. So in God's presence, the first thing that God said was, don't commit suicide. He told me, do stress to everybody: do not commit suicide. I can't be held responsible if somebody decides to commit suicide. You will, I can't say what'll happen to you, but trust me, you probably don't want to find out. Especially God only knows, well, God does know, what you've done in your life. You probably want a little bit more time here to make some amends or do something. I don't know. That's between you and God. I don't want to act like I know your personal relationship with God. It's not my interest here. My only interest here is to deliver this message as I was let know that it's become known that it was time to deliver this message. God loves all of us, again, like I said. So after God saying, stress that it's not, it's against God to commit suicide. It's against his plan. When it's your time to go, you'll go. However that may be, when it's your time, when he needs you, you'll be called upon. The first thing that God showed me was the earth, and I could see past, present, and future events. And God said that there was information, that things that I would see, things that I would be privy to, that when the time was right I would be allowed to say, and some things that were for my own benefit and understanding that I wasn't allowed to reveal to anybody. Which, who am I to question? All I'm going to do is stick to protocol and, deliver this message as God's asked me to. So, looking upon earth, I could see past, present, and future events. It was so neat looking, and God explained to me that in heaven there is no time. We're all already together in heaven because there is no time. That might be kind of hard for some people to wrap their minds around. Basically, what you need to know is that when a loved one passes and they go to the pearly gates, if they turn around, you're already standing there. They don't have a chance to miss or mourn you. So, although we miss our loved ones when they pass and mourn for them, please understand that they don't have the chance to mourn us because we're already there with them. So I hope that brings comfort and solace to some people that have lost friends and loved ones. God loves us all, and again, I hope that brings some solace. I know that it's brought some peace to people before, so I wanted to make sure that I got that information in there too for you. So God, once he showed me the planet, he told me that there would be a great awakening, that we would go into an age of enlightenment where we would be able to, we're going to have a difference of opinion. We're not always going to, everybody's not going to be on the same page all the time. And that's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. However, the difference in where we're going to be versus where we're at is that we will be able to have a difference of opinion without being judgmental or disrespectful or hateful. And I don't like using that word, but it's needed to describe that. That word has very negative connotations to it. If you can, try to avoid the HATE word. You'd be surprised how much negative, and it doesn't hurt others as much as it hurts yourself, and you'll come to find that out. So, after God showed me the earth and showed me the earth vibrating and trembling with this great change that was coming upon it, I saw the oceans jump their beds. I saw the east and west coast with giant waves just... I don't know what the timeline is for that, but if I'm being told to deliver this message now, we're running out of time. God said, do not have any fear. There is nothing that you need to fear. If you're in the path of any of this, there's a good chance that that God's ready for you to come home, or you have another purpose or anything. That's between you and God. I'm not going to try to act like I know what everybody's purpose is. That'd be silly. We all have our own personal relationship with God, and whether you know it, whether you believe it or not, God is with you always. Our spiritual connection to God is there. God told me that I would go through a lot of trials and errors, that I would go through, the heavy drink, being a drunk for quite a while. That I would have children, that I would experience both good and negative in this world still, but that I would find peace and comfort and solace, and that I would actually find a point in my life where I was able to, whenever negative things happen, I was able to calm myself and push away the negative energy, almost like little mini resets. Sometimes just stopping and taking a breath can let you get on, in this physical, without being weighed down by all the negative. The Ten Commandments are a good set of rules if you want, rules to follow. To tell you the truth, they're mostly common sense. Obviously, look at all. You can look them up if you want a refresher, or if you don't follow religion or have different. This is not really a religious talk. This is more of a spiritual talk. This is for everyone. Cannot stress that enough. I'm not saying that this needs to go to one specific group. Those of you who are ready to wake up and be enlightened, those who are already fully awake and enlightened to the world around you, can see just how much madness and weirdness is going on all around us. It's almost like the world's falling apart. But in fact, it's going through a reset of everything, consciousness and all. This is the age of enlightenment, brothers and sisters. Time to wake up, if you're not awake already. God is love. God is light. So the next thing that God showed me was the universe. Now, as vast as the universe is, the way that God explained it to me was that if you could go faster than the speed of light, if you could ever, let's say, just for giggles, so you understand the way that the universe works, there is no edge. Whenever you got so far, think of it like a Mario game where the little guy's out, and you wander off the screen, and all of a sudden, boop, you're back over here. Everything is this matrix that we live in, which is the whole universe. It's not some computer matrix, or it's just this world and this when I say the matrix, I'm talking about the whole universe. That there are so many different planets and worlds and things going on, and these constructs are designed to where we can experience physical, because as spirits there are certain things that we cannot, as souls there are certain things that we can't experience. Being in a physical fleshy body means that we can experience pain, we can experience, loss and sorrow and stuff that you can't experience in heaven. And these are very important. It's almost like soul evolution. So, as vast as the universe is, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful construct. We have this plane of ether, this whole different, that we'll be able to understand or get into. I'm not supposed to get into that, so I won't. I'll leave it off there. Just understand that we happen to live in a universe that does support life. They don't all support life. There are dark universes that don't support life as we know it. I have I, I have to stop on that. Okay, so moving on. I don't want to destroy anybody's perspective on anything, and I can't mess with free will. It's very important that I do not mess with free will. So, God informed me that when the time was right, I would be able to deliver this message, and that's why I'm delivering this message now. And it didn't seem like I was in heaven for very long, but God told me that He told me that we were all loved, that we all have a purpose, and I believe He stressed to me more than once, don't commit suicide. He wasn't too thrilled that I did that, but He understood that I needed answers in order to, and I say He, but again, God's not He like we think. I'm not going to say God's man. We've been through that. So there are little g gods. There is the God of our soul, and then there are what the ancients, the different gods of the ancients were physical beings in this physical world as well. So we have gods, and then we have God. So it all exists. They both exist. Everything that you could ever conceive in your mind exists in one way, shape, or form. Just because we can't experience them, we could be surrounded. You don't even want to know some of the stuff we're surrounded by. We're not even going to get into that. I don't want to get myself in trouble. So just understand that we experience what we're meant to experience. Just like a vast range of light, and we only happen to be able to see this little portion of light, even though there's a huge spectrum of infrared and there's a huge spectrum of ultraviolet that we cannot perceive with our eyes. That's why there's sometimes where we can pick stuff up on camera that we don't see, but we put a camera up and poof, you can see some stuff that that you couldn't see. So I am open to doing interviews. There are some other things that I can go into that I can talk about, but I'm going to keep it kind of simple for this. So God told me that He was going to send me back, and then I opened my eyes, and I was back in my grandmother's basement. And where it was around 12 o'clock when I had done what I had done and died, it was now around 8 o'clock in the morning. And I opened my eyes and I put on a hoodie and I stood up. And one of the first things that went through my mind is, oh my God, I can stand? Because I remind you, I didn't have the energy to get up off the bed when I was laying there dying. So when God brought me back, I had enough energy to stand up off the bed, put on a hoodie to cover myself up. I was covered in blood. I was nasty. So I walked up the flight of steps up into the main living area, the living room, addition, whatever, and up and around through the hallway into my grandmother's main bathroom on the main floor. And I got into the tub and I started running water, washing my arms off. And my dad walks in. I got the tub like half full. I don't know. My dad was outside on the property. He was staying on the property. So my dad walks in, and the first thing he does when he looks at me, I can see this terror in his eyes, and he goes, "Sean, what did you do?" And he was so scared. And I could see, I've never seen that man so scared in my life. And Now, I'm trying to make this as short as possible, so during an interview I can give a little bit more information and cover a couple of other things. So, and I don't mind doing interviews, but again, non-monetary. None of this is for money. This is because God loves you and I love you too. So, so my dad come in and was crying, and he found me like that. And the first thing they did was call an ambulance. One of the one of the police officers that happened to work at Ashtabula County Joint Vocational School, where I went for my education in horticulture. He happened to be one of the officers that arrived on scene, so he already knew me. And the paramedics that showed up, I was sitting in a chair, and the paramedics started checking me out, and the one paramedic looked me dead in my eyes, and he said, "Son, if you weren't talking to me right now, we would be pronouncing you dead. I can't get any vitals on you. You're white as a ghost." They put a stethoscope up to my heart, and they said it was like my heart wasn't even beating. So the only reason why I'm sitting here talking to you guys today is because God sent me back. And I know that this is very, very important, and it's time. It's time for you guys to know. There's my left arm scar. Here is, if you can see that, big scar going across the inside of my arm there. Just for anybody out there that tries to act like I'm full of it, you can do your own research. You can go to Ashtabula Hospital and look up Sean Blaney, and I'm sure that you wouldn't have any problem either finding a story in Ashtabula paper or something. Like I said, this was about 14 years ago. Just in case anybody wants to, be negative or try to say that I'm full of it or whatever, I don't have any interest in any of that. If you're meant to receive this message, you'll know that what I'm telling you is true. And if you're not meant to, then you're not meant to. That's between you and God. I don't want to get into that. That's it's not my place. I won't judge anybody, and I do my best every single day not to mess with free will or pass judgment on anybody. This is very, very important. Now, most of you live your lives under the constructs of belief, religion, and other constructs, maybe some that have been set up for you, maybe some that you've put yourself in this box of what you know of as your reality, which is fine. Everybody has their own constructs to this thing. So I don't want to break anybody, I don't want to mess anybody up. This is only to help. So this is an age of enlightenment. But you either choose to participate in this or turn a blind eye to all of it. Call it all BS, move on living in a box. That's up to you. That's part of free will. It's your right to get as much or as little out of this life as you want. So, going back to the story, they took me in, and they put artificial, connections in my veins, stitched my arms up and everything. And my life has never been the same since that event. One of the things God told me while I was up there was, don't ever commit suicide again. And God didn't have to tell me, or this will happen. I just knew when that information came across to me, like, one and done. You asked for forgiveness, I'm granting you forgiveness. You asked for answers, and I'm giving them to you. So, there's quite a bit more that I can go over and cover. Like I said, I'm just trying to keep this as short as possible. This is my second attempt today to try to do this video, so I want to keep it as short as possible. So, on that note, if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to type them down on my YouTube. I will try to get back in touch with every single one of you and answer any questions that you have. You can also find me on Facebook under SHAWN BLANEY, and you'll know it's mine because it'll have a little template of a star system, or you'll see pictures of my children and star system related stuff, out of the box thinking kind of stuff. So there are a lot more discussions that we're going to get into in the future. This is just one of many. So on that note, for now, anybody that's still with me, that means that you have received the message. You are a part of the enlightened. You are. You are. You're a beautiful soul. We're all beautiful souls, and I'm glad if you've been through this whole entire message with me. God bless you. Thank you. And on that note, I just want to let you know, if you have any questions at all, feel free. I'm not bothered to answer all of your questions, or the questions I can answer. Like I said, there are some things that I cannot answer. So, all right, guys. On that note, like I said, this is the first of many discussions, and please, no negativity, though. I will not contact back. I won't. I'm not going to entertain negativity or hate speech or any of that. Understand that I am only doing this because I love you and God loves you, and this is a message for you. Obviously, you needed to hear it, or you would have never clicked here to find these answers. On that note, again, God bless you. You are loved. Live in the love. Live in the light. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.